What's up, everybody? Today I am here with Jason Dulay, which is really, I'm really excited about this. We're gonna be doing an interview. I know, guys, I haven't done too many interviews recently. For some reference, Jason, I went through a phase for like a month where I was interviewing people like every day, and then I just stopped. So I'm really excited here. So to give some people some context. Axel, my virtual assistant from the Philippines, really admires Jason and like pulled some hoops to get this interview going. And I don't really know a whole lot about Jason, so this is going to be a learning experience for me as well as you guys. So Jason, why don't we start at the beginning? Where were you born?
Interesting question. I was actually born in Houston. Not a lot of people know this, but a lot of people assume I was born in the Philippines, but I was born in Houston, Texas. But I grew up here in the Philippines, so I don't have any memories of actually a childhood in the States, because my parents brought me back before I was 2 years old, and then I grew out the rest of my life in the Philippines. Other than that, like the past couple of years, I've been traveling as well. So I did go to the U.S., but it's not really home for me at all. I traveled around, just like you. I traveled quite a bit, mostly around Asia. The usual. You got Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Japan. That whole Hong Kong and around. But I spend most of the time here in the Philippines. This is home for me, and yeah. So that's my long answer to your question. Where were you born?
That's like I usually have a similar response because I was born in Sri Lanka, but I only lived there for a year.
Oh.
So saying I'm Sri Lankan is like not accurate at all.
Yeah.
But what led so you have American citizenship then, right? Because you were born in the States.
Yes, I do.
So what led your parents to move back to the Philippines?
I haven't really asked them that question, but they were there just for a little while. I think they were there for a total of like 3 or 4 years. So before I was born, and then on to when I was born, and they came back. My dad. Oh, here's what I assume is the real story. My dad had a family business that needed to be run, so he went back to the Philippines. I guess my grandmother, who was like the business mastermind in our family, or was the business mastermind in our family, had him run one of the businesses. So he came back to the Philippines, and then he ran that business until it went bankrupt. So I was using the past tense because it went bankrupt, something like 98. So there.
You had an entrepreneurial grandmother?
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, she. which was it was great, but yeah, as I said, the company went bankrupt in '98, so it was badass, and I was too young. I was too young to really see to get influenced by her much. Right now, she doesn't have the business anymore. But yeah, it was cool, those childhood years.
So what was it like growing up in the Philippines? I only know a little bit about. I have my best friend in high school was from the Philippines, and he'd lived there since he was like 12. So I know a bit about the culture there, and like as far as I understand, Filipinos have an amazing work ethic and are really good cooks. Like,
well. I'm not going to disagree with you, that's for sure. But what I will say is, we do have, I'd say we do have great work ethic, and a lot of the Eastern Asian, it's kind of an Eastern Asian thing, I think, because if you go to Singapore, they're even worse than Filipinos. You've got Japan, you've got Singapore, you've got Hong Kong, where people literally work themselves to death, but we don't do that here, but I would say we do have a great work ethic. About the food, there is some really good food here. Okay, I'm gonna say that I've had my favorite food is Japanese. I know you didn't ask that, but it is Japanese. But I will say that I put Filipino food near one of the top cuisines I've had. Not being biased.
I actually know a guy, and so one of my friends in Nicaragua works has this humanitarian organization that like finds food waste and then kind of recirculates it to get cooked and processed and fed to people who don't need it. And the guy who cooks all of it is Filipino. And I had a conversation with him, and he was like, "Man, I try and make them like fancy foods like spaghetti. They don't want it. They just want their gallo pinto, their rice and beans. Like they don't want any of the other stuff." It's pretty funny. But so tell me, when did virtual assistants, like if you look back in your life, when did you become aware of virtual assistants as a thing, and what led to that?
So back in 2011, I was working in the BPO, or the call center here in the Philippines. As you know, there are a lot of call centers over here.
7 years.
And
ago.
I was just 7 years ago, and I was looking for ways to make more money. I was basically bored, in short, and I wanted more money to buy shoes and stuff, and travel and stuff. So I looked online and I saw these things like, you can work online, you can make money, and I had no idea about any of this back then. So I looked it up, and it was being a virtual assistant. So I said, hey, this is pretty neat. So I tried it out. Was able to earn a good amount of money the first month. I said, hey, this is pretty neat. Eventually, I was able to surpass what I was earning in the BPO, and that's when I transitioned into becoming a full-time VA and a full-time freelancer. And from there, from being a VA, I learned about search engine optimization, web design, online marketing. Became an online marketing consultant. I'm not sure how far you want to go, if you want to fast forward all the way to current day, but that's how it did. And then okay, so let's continue the story. So I learned. Sorry, I've recovering from the flu, so I'm drinking a lot of water still.
It's all good. Hydration is important.
So I learned about all this stuff, became a pretty good online marketer, online marketing consultant. For example, I'm on Clarity. I'm not active there anymore, but I was there for, I think my per minute rate, something like $15 like $10 a minute, $10 a minute. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when I came back, so I traveled a bit. That's the time when I traveled. When I first found out about freelancing, being a VA, I said, hey, cool, I can earn all this money online, which was something like a little bit under $2,000 a month US, mm-hmm. which is enough to travel, which is more than enough to travel Asia.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can even travel Europe on that budget. So I traveled quite a bit. And then when I came back to the Philippines, I had, people always ask, hey, when you meet new people always ask, so what do you do, Jason? So, I just stay at home and make money, and they could see that I wasn't some bum, I knew how I had, recent cell phones, so I was earning money somehow, but I was just like at home. So a lot of people asked about it, and at that time, okay, I had no idea. I had no intention of really launching what's now the VA Bootcamp, where we've taught Axel, who's your VA. We've taught him how to become a VA. We've taught over 3,000 students have paid and enrolled in our courses. That had no plans of that at all. But people kept asking. I said, hey, you know what? Just to, I got irritated. It was like, okay, I'll just teach you. Okay, stop asking questions.
Okay.
Let me show you how it's done. Yeah, let me show how it's done. And surprisingly enough, they were like, whoa, this is really cool. And I said, you should sell this stuff. Oh, really? Okay. So I kind of knew about the online courses thing. So I said, okay, let me try this out. And I once again, I was just testing things out. I didn't really mean for it to be a big thing or a main thing. So, hey, if one person signs up, I'm going to be really happy. A week later, after I launched the course, so I was running some Facebook ads. A week later, I got a guy who signed up. It was like a guy who I had like a couple of friends sign up who knew me, and I was like, okay, they're friends, they know me, and it doesn't count. But then this guy out of nowhere, he pays with his credit card. It's like, whoa, you know, some guy actually gave me money. So I was very excited about that. And yeah, fast forward to today, which is like 2.5 years later, we've got over 3,000 paid students. We've got also a Facebook group, a public Facebook group. We've got like 80,000 members. So very exciting. This is literally taken over my life now. I still have some clients, but I don't have any time really to take on new clients. And whenever clients ask me, hey, can you do this new work for me? I said, no, I don't. I really don't have the time for that. Because I'm so busy with this, reaching out to my countrymen here in the Philippines and teaching them how to make a lot more money than they would otherwise, utilize their talents and abilities. And we've had so many success stories and touching stories of we've literally had students who were dirt poor. Well, maybe not dirt poor, but they'd be living on something like, if we talk US dollars, something like under $200 a month.
Yeah.
Okay? They'd be earning under $200 a month. And I see them now, they're earning something like $2,000 a month. So it's so exciting seeing our students grow, and seeing their success stories, seeing how many lives we've touched. That, you know, this is taken over my life. I have
that feeling. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's just you can't explain it. You know, when somebody literally, it's happened a couple of times. You know, I'm in the mall and somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, thank you so much." Like, I don't even know you, but you're thanking me for changing your life, and it's like, okay, cool. You know, yeah. So, and that has kept me going, seeing those stories and you know, it's literally changing. It sounds weird to say because you know, say changing people's lives, and there's so much hubbub around that. You know, you're saying, you know, we change people's, but we really see the stories of lives we've changed, and
that's incredibly motivating.
Yeah, it is. Even when we're really tired, we have like sometimes we have 10 hours, 12-hour days, but those kinds of stories just keep us going and keep me going.
Yeah, it's amazing. So tell me a bit about for Filipinos in general, what's it like finding a job?
There are different, well, I said there are different levels of to answer that question. For you, to give you an idea, if you were to work and your audience is predominantly US based, for my examples to kind of...
So like my 30% of my course students are US based. I have a lot of international based people.
Okay, well they should get the references. For example, if you were to work in Walmart, like the Walmart, you know, equivalent of Walmart in the Philippines, which is the department stores, you need a college degree to even, you know, work there. Even if you're slinging burgers in McDonald's, they prioritize people who have college degrees, which is crazy. But that's just how it is. It's the college has become something like a high school requirement in the U.S.
Gotcha.
to get jobs here. So if you don't have a college degree, and a good amount of Filipinos can't afford to go to college. If you don't have a college degree, it's really tough. You're at the bottom of all the lists. And yeah, you could be working in a factory doing manual labor for $150, $175 an hour a month, $175 a month doing manual labor. So as if you don't have a college degree. Another direction that people take is if they go to college, if they have the money to go to college. So this is the middle class families. Most of the middle class families right now, they send their kids to either, number one, work in a call center, because in the call center you can earn something like $200, $300, $400 a month in a call center. Or second, they send them to school with the intention of becoming what we call an overseas Filipino worker, an expat.
OFW, that's what that is.
OFW. That's what the term means, OFW, yeah. and we see these Filipinos, especially nurses. The most common OFW are these nurses, and they're sent to places like Dubai. They're sent to Saudi Arabia. We have a whole bunch in the U.S. and in Europe, in Canada, predominantly nursing, but we've also got a whole lot of other professions, including engineering and flight attendants and so on. But the nurses are the big chunk. That's what most people will know when they meet Filipinos in different countries. They're more than half the time they're going to be nurses. So yeah, that's what the middle class families do. And some of even the lower class families try to send their kids to become OFWs. That's like a big thing, because that's like the only way that the perception is that being an OFW is the only way that you can earn a good living, a decent living for your family. And we're a very family-oriented culture, where the OFWs, they send money back to the Philippines to support their parents. If they have kids, they support their kids. They spend their time away from their families. They spend 5-10 years away from their families, and send money to their kids, and they aren't there to see their kids growing up.
Yeah.
Which is, it's time is one of those. It's like the only resource that we can't get back. So that's all lost time. So yeah, that's where the majority of Filipinos, and there's the upper class, the rich Filipinos, which is like what the 1%, who have their who are passed down, like the big family businesses and so on.
So how much does a college degree cost to get in the Philippines?
Well, the college I went to, which was like a middle tier college, was around $300-400 a month. Sorry, my brain's a bit foggy because of the flu. $300-400 a semester is what I paid for my college degree. So that's a mid-tier school, and that was way back when. Nowadays, that's probably the price for towards the bottom. $300-400 a sem is probably towards the bottom. The higher class schools will probably hit you north of 1,000 a sem. And well, just to put things into perspective, I talked about some salaries earlier, like the typical household income of Filipinos. So 2 kids, typical family, is normally between something like $400 to $600 a month. So that's how much the family earns to survive. Yeah. So going to school, spending this amount of money,
it's the whole household income.
Yeah, it is.
For
it is
one
the whole
semester.
Household. Yeah.
Wow.
But I know it's crazier. It's crazier in the U.S. as well. With a college, with a top tier college in the U.S., it's also crazy. But yeah, it is. If you put things into perspective with the cost of living and how much people earn, it is also a lot here.
Yeah. Well, the cost of education in the U.S. is ludicrous. Like, absolutely ludicrous. That's something that's interesting to me, because people will, here in the States, our culture will happily drop like 50, 60 grand on a college education. And like, the reality is, you could live in a country like the Philippines or Nicaragua, great internet, for years and years and years. And it's really fascinating. And I'm actually about to be moving back to Nicaragua. And I'm really interested in all the stuff you're talking about, because like, times are really hard in Nicaragua right now. Times have been hard for a long time, but it's very hard for local Nicaraguans to find work. And the political situation at the moment hurts locals a lot. The prices of food and that kind of thing has gone up, and it's become even harder to find work. And from my position, like, I understand that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the United States who are perfectly able to pay $4 or $5 an hour for a really good worker. And then there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Nicaragua who would kill to have a $3 an hour job. Like the average person in Nicaragua in like 2006, so this is a bit old, they earned like $2 a day, like $60 a month. Like, it doesn't take much to be able to improve on that. And for my friends there, for a person my age, so in their 20s, to have a job that pays you $500 a month, you are doing relatively well. That means like you have a job that most of your peers will want. They will be a bit jealous of. And so what I'm trying to learn is, how can I play a role in connecting these two groups of people? And I think that you literally do this. This is exactly what you do, you know? So it's incredibly fascinating.
Well, and yeah, it's not the same. It's the same here. You know, if somebody's earning $500 a month, then they're like, "Whoa, okay, get me in on that." It's that level. It's like somebody earning, I don't know, like 40K, 50K ish in the U.S., where they say, "Whoa, okay, it's not lucrative, but it's like, hey, that's pretty decent," you know.
Yeah, you could build something from that.
Yeah, exactly. So to answer your question was, you know, how could you connect people? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, essentially.
So what I did here in the Philippines is was really around education, more than because the Filipinos have a pretty good command of English. So our culture is very westernized, where when you turn on the TV, you see American TV shows. We also have Filipino TV shows, but American TV shows are very popular here. The theaters show predominantly American movies. The music played all over is actually Western music. Some Filipino music mixed in there, but the majority is still very, very Western. So when it comes to really connecting, what I'd say, online businesses and having them hire virtual assistants and freelancers and pay for different kinds of virtual assistant work to be done, connecting these two groups isn't that hard, because there's already the language is there, the culture is somewhat already there, and my job really is just to show my countrymen how to find work online and teach them the basic skills that they need, which include things like how to do the more advanced Google search stuff, how to manage Office applications like Microsoft and Google Docs, and the tricks in Gmail and Google Calendar, managing social media, managing WordPress websites. So these are the things that I teach them. But other than that, it's not that tough. It's not that big of a challenge, because, like I said, the culture and the language is already there. Mm-hmm. And the big plus here is that I'm Filipino, and I have a very good understanding of Western culture as well, so I can make that connection. And when I speak to my students, they can very much relate with my own experiences, and I understand the culture of Philippines very well, because this is where I'm from. So communicating with them and empathizing with them isn't really that hard. So if you were to do it, that's your question, right?
Yeah, and so essentially when I visited Nicaragua before, I originally went with this group of really entrepreneurial people and ended up having a falling out with them, and I kind of struggle with how a lot of people who earn money are obsessed with it, and they don't really have very many values. Like they don't really care about like cooking dinner together or going on a walk, that kind of thing. But so before I left, I ended up falling in with this group of local Nicaraguans, and I ended up getting really close to them, and I left and ended up staying in touch with them. And we talk every other day on group chats and WhatsApp, and they've all indicated that they want me to live there again. And honestly, for me, that last month was the most healthy environment I've ever lived in, and I feel like I have a family there. So I have a community of people. One of them is the individual who runs that humanitarian organization, and so they're well connected individuals, and they're locals, like all fluent in Spanish. So it's not necessarily just about me going and doing that. It's about like working with this community and understanding that I'm in a very unique position because I can make it easier for people to find work. And so what I'm getting from you is that it's not so much about connecting the people, it's about teaching, in my case, the Nicaraguans, how to be useful and find work for themselves, because then they don't have to rely on me. They can figure out how to get that work.
Yeah, that would be the ideal scenario if you could do that. Because what's the saying? Give a man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and feed him for a lifetime. Yeah. Right. So that's exactly what we're doing here is teaching them how to fish, so that they don't become dependent on us. You know. And yeah, that's the whole philosophy there. And in Nicaragua, I really, pardon my lack of cultural awareness for Nicaragua, but I guess if I think the biggest barrier would be the language. Mm-hmm. Aside, of course, there's the skills which are easily learned. It's not that hard to
learn Microsoft. Proficiency is the hardest one, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, English proficiency might be the hardest one there. And I know like what some people do in other countries is they manage virtual assistants. So they have like it's basically outsourcing, where there's like an outsourcing office in these other countries. So that's one option. But yeah, with my very little knowledge of Nicaraguan culture, I can't really give the best advice there.
It's quite similar to the Philippines. Like the economic situation in Nicaragua is definitely, as far as I understand, worse. Like Nicaragua is the second poorest country in this hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere.
Yes.
And like call centers there are a big thing. Like a lot of my friends wanted to get jobs at call centers because they pay pretty well. The problem is you need to know English. So it is a pretty similar situation there, where if you can learn English, then you can get jobs that pay better. I don't think there is that dependency on a college education to get basic work. There is college and university in Nicaragua, and it's not super expensive, but I wouldn't say it's common for everybody to get educated. And in general, it is very, very, very hard to find a job. Like people will stay at jobs that they don't earn enough money because they're simply unable to find other work.
And that I think that's a common theme around third world countries, really. Staying in jobs that don't pay enough. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure that the economic situation is worse in Nicaragua than it is here in the Philippines, unfortunately. But I would just at the top of my head, I would imagine that if you're looking at Spanish speakers, there might be that market there where there could be VAs for Spanish speakers. If you look at, Spain isn't that rich, but they probably are more than Nicaragua, and then Spanish speakers in the U.S.
Spanish is the second most popular language in the United States, and it's becoming like.
Yeah.
I was raised in the U.S. and. Not completely in the U.S., but for my teenage years, and a lot of my friends in high school were Latino people. That's just, and I was on the East Coast, like I wasn't near a border or anything. There's a huge amount of Latin people in the United States. But how many
I think that
are speaking Spanish and need a VA? Like different story.
But yeah, that does sound like that could be a great opportunity that I don't think. I don't know of anyone doing that, tapping the Spanish-speaking market, because there's so much focus on the English-speaking market, in my space, because Filipinos speak English, so we have that. We're around the English-speaking market, and there's already a lot of people here. But in the Spanish-speaking market, I think that is an untapped area where there is a lot of opportunity that Nicaraguans and other Spanish speakers in South America, if they learn the skills, the basic computer skills and so on, then they can get those VA work, those VA jobs.
That's pretty exciting. It's definitely.
Yeah.
I'm planning on moving, like spending a long time in Nicaragua, and I want to find ways. One of the reasons I'm going there is just because I feel like I'm more useful there. Like I have, like here in the States, I have access to tons of information. But U.S. people, a lot of them have never really been out of the country. They don't understand what it's like for most humans. And this leads to them lacking, like I don't want to say it like it's bad because they don't know any better. But a lot of Americans complain about things that people overseas would just be like, what? You know, it's unfortunate.
First world problem. Yeah.
So I'm looking over some of the questions that Axel had real quick. And so one of the things that he said is that you've mentioned, or he says that you've mentioned that you want to make Filipinos synonymous with virtual assistants. Can you explain what you mean by that?
When somebody in the online world, in the online Western world, wants to hire a VA, I want Filipinos to be at the top of the list. I'm sorry, I know that you're pushing for Nicaragua, but
no.
I want Filipinos to be at the top of the list. I think that Filipinos are very qualified to be at the top of the list. We have the ease of there's that ease of culture, that switch, the language, the culture. It's very easy to understand the Western cultures. You said we've got the work ethic. Filipinos have very strong work ethic, and basically Filipinos need the money. they paying somebody $4 an hour is pretty good. A lot of Filipinos would be very happy earning $4 an hour, and that's it. But of course, I'm not going to say if you're hiring an expert Facebook ads guy or a copywriter, you should pay them $4 an hour. You should pay them appropriately, of course. But if you're getting a VA and for somebody to be content, $4 an hour is totally fine. $5 an hour. So yeah, I want that, and I see the direction already going there because there are so many Filipino VAs, and I just want it to keep growing so that when you say virtual assistant, there's always like, oh, let's get somebody from the Philippines, no questions asked.
For what it's worth, if I think high quality VA, Philippine VAs instantly is what comes to mind. So I don't know if that's because of you, but that is my perception. So I was actually a little bit confused by the question because I was like, I already feel that way.
Hey, the brainwashing is already working. See, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think we're poised. We're poised to have that connection, and to be on top of the list, especially for the U.S. If you're thinking of the U.K., the Indians have a strong connection there because the kind of English that's spoken, the culture is very connected there. But for the U.S., you're looking at the Philippines over there.
Yeah, in England, there's like Indian food's a huge thing. I lived in England briefly. My father was British, and there definitely is a lot of remnants of Indian culture, like the obsession with tea.
Oh yeah, there you go.
In the States, I put milk in my black tea, and they're like, "Yeah, what are you doing? What is that?"
He's putting milk there.
Let's see another one of Axel's questions. Was why a person should favor Filipino VAs over an American VA, for example.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say that that you should really favor a Filipino VA. I'm not going to say we're better as VAs.
I can say that. I think Filipino VAs are more worth the money than American VAs. Just for reference.
Okay, thank you. There you go. I do think I don't want to take jobs away from hardworking Americans. There are, but of course there are more opportunities in local business. If you're going to work online for $8 an hour as an American, why? You can earn a lot.
Yeah, that's not even minimum wage in most states.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's no point, really.
Yeah. In California, it's like $13.
There you go. So if you're paying somebody in the Philippines $13 an hour, that means they're pretty skilled already. They have at $13 an hour, they have a couple, like maybe 2 years experience managing campaigns or let's say managing Shopify stores. Okay, so that's what you're looking at there. And in the States, that would probably be like $50 an hour or something like that, $40 an hour. So yeah, bang for your buck. I'd say the Philippines is right there at the top for bang for your buck. Quality wise, there is the work ethic. I do see that Filipinos have a very strong work ethic. We're very willing to learn new things, almost to a fault, really. Too eager to please sometimes. So there's a word of warning there that a lot of times Filipinos are too eager to please. It's like, yeah, sure, I'm going to learn that. You want to do Adobe Premiere, After Effects? Yeah, sure, I'll learn that for you. But and then they started learning. It's like, whoa, I can't. No idea what this is.
This is like a 2-year learning curve.
Yeah. There is that danger, but we're very eager to learn new things. I think we were fast learners. I'd say Filipinos, bang for your buck, definitely. And quality of work, I'd say it's right there at the top. Of course, you're going to find those that there are exceptions to the rule. There are those that don't submit quality work, but if you have proper filtering and screening processes in place, you'll find a lot of Filipinos submit high quality work at very good rates.
So what would you say some of the most common work that VAs you train end up doing is?
So there's a general VA work where small business owners, online businesses, have them just do a plethora of things. Check emails, reply to chat messages, reply to social media messages, schedule posts, manage meetings, and so on. So there's that, the general VA group. In the past year, I'd say, the past couple of months, the past year, e-commerce VAs have been growing in popularity. There have been a lot of e-commerce companies popping up and looking for these e-commerce VAs. So that's been growing in popularity, and it's still very popular. As we're winding down the holiday season, there's still a lot of e-commerce VA openings, and a lot of our students are getting those jobs. And then we've got the social media VAs, I'd say, are next in line on that list. And of course, there are other kinds of VAs as well, but you get more specialized VAs who do writing, VAs who do SEO, and then they get more expensive as well because these are in more specialized fields.
That's pretty awesome. All right, let me glance over these questions again.
Sure.
So as a rough estimate, like say that there's a business owner in the US and they have some basic tasks that they do on a computer that could be outsourced, where they are training what the task is. They're not using a specialized skill. How much can a business owner like that expect to pay somebody to get maybe part-time, like 20 hours a week?
20 hours a week, you're probably looking at, if you're getting somebody who's fresher, okay, who doesn't have the years of experience yet, you're probably looking at something like $300 for a part-timer. That's at the lower end of the spectrum. If you're generous, maybe you're going to pay $400 for a part-timer, and then at that amount, you expect that they'll have the basic skills, basic computer skills that you need, and then they're going to be they'll be fast on the pickup enough to learn whatever you're going to teach them.
Yeah. And so with the VAs that you work with, do Filipinos tend to prefer, and I don't mean for it to ask that in a way that makes it seem like you represent all Filipinos, but would you say that people prefer to have like a couple part-time gigs or one full-time kind of thing?
Well, there's always that comfort in having one full-time thing, you know. But what I tell all our students is that you should have you should have more than one client, because, you know, companies go out of business. Things go wrong, priorities change, and you never know. You know, tomorrow a business can suddenly close. So just for the security of the VAs, we always tell them have at least 2 clients. You know, work for at least 2 companies rather than just one. But a lot of them get comfortable. They find their comfort zone to say, oh, you know what, Jack's a great client. You know, I love working with him. I'll just stay with him forever. You know, there is that familiarity. So I'd say that there are those 2 groups, but majority prefer the security of having more than one client.
Yeah, that stability. That's what I like. If I think about income streams, like my parents got screwed because they relied on their jobs, and my dad died of cancer, and he didn't have life insurance, so that was like $30,000, and he died. Then my mother got breast cancer, and that was $60,000, and she lived. So, but in both of these situations, like my mother spent 6 years of her life working all the time to pay off that medical debt, and that was worth it, obviously, to be alive. But if you want stability, you have to kind of rely on multiple things, because the reality of life is that everything ends. That is just how it is. You know, nothing lasts forever, and it can be so easy when times are good to kind of forget what it used to be like when times are hard. But it's important not all the way, you know, because you got to remember that and allow that to bring you that stability.
Yeah, and well, in your case, the traveling reminds you of that. When you travel to Nicaragua and third world countries, it does give you that reminder. Even here in the Philippines, I earn a pretty good income, but when I go to the other parts of the Philippines where
life is harder.
Life is a lot harder. I do get reminded of, hey man, I'm very blessed for what I have, and there's that. It's the whole the philosophy, stoicism, where you should always be aware of what you have and how losing everything could be, and it's not actually that bad, but it could be tomorrow, but you should be ready for it at any time.
Yeah. All right, I think that sums the interview up. I don't want to take too much of your time.
No problem. I've had it's great telling more people about the VAs in the Philippines, and the introducing people to different cultures is always amazing. I'm sure you can relate to that. Just talking and making people aware of how things are around the world. That's amazing, and I'm sure that with you're working with Axel, you're learning a lot of the culture from him as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like having a very personal relationship with my VA. So I have Axel and also VA in Morocco.
Oh, cool.
For me, like, I work with people who follow my YouTube channel because they have a commitment to me, they have a connection, and that means that they're trying to educate themselves. And from my perspective, like, well, this all started out with drop shipping stuff, and I don't actually do that anymore, or at least not at the moment. But a lot of people are worried about having a VA who's educating themselves. They think that the VA is going to steal their secrets or something like this, and it's really quite ignorant to think that way, because you want a VA who is educating themselves. You want a VA who can sometimes even tell what your weaknesses are. And Axel is great with that. Like, he understands what my insecurities are and what I need and what I need to be exposed to. And it's just I find it to be such a beneficial relationship. Also because of what I get out of it, aside from the work, like the connection. I have close connections with my VAs and talk to them regularly. I know about what's going on in their countries and their personal lives, and that's something that I think is really, really valuable, because there's just, like, when you know people like that, you just, there's something to it that it just feels like more real, more authentic, and the work's more higher quality, you know?
Yeah, and it's amazing that in this day and age you can have that somebody from halfway around the world, literally.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
And then I get you with the whole learning. All of our staff, all of my staff are people who have gone through our programs, and we've seen the potential in them as they went through the programs, have gotten clients. So these are the people we hire, because we know that the ones that go through our programs, they're already filtered. They already have that drive. They have the work ethic to keep going. So it's easier to choose from this pool of people, just like in your case, those that follow your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jason, it was really awesome talking to you. I'm about to end the recording. Give me a second. All right, guys, for everyone watching, if you want to check out Jason's stuff, there's links in the description. See you guys next time.
Bye.